There is a growing movement attributing heart disease, cancer, and stroke to an imbalance in the nervous system. Yin yoga, a popular style of yoga where deep stretches are held for about 3 to 5 minutes, has been shown to reverse the harmful effects of stress on the nervous system. In this podcast, we will unpack why the practice of yin yoga is one of the best things that you can do for your health and your well-being. Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. Make sure that you press subscribe and to click on the link to get 3 amazing classes, power yoga, yin yoga, and meditation to increase that strength, flexibility, and calm. All right, let's jump into the video. Welcome to episode number 55 of the Be Ultimate podcast, where we will dive into the incredible effects of yin yoga on the nervous system. So many of you know from previous episodes or from my book or my trainings that I got into yin yoga because I was hit by a car as a pedestrian, severely injured my knee. I was crippled for a long time. And after going to many doctors and alternative practitioners, really the main thing that healed my knee and almost made it better than it was before the accident was the practice of yin yoga. And I discovered yin yoga through the teachings of Paul Grilly, the founder of yin yoga. And it really changed my life because it completely healed my body. I was told that I would never be able to run again and I would walk with a limp. And not only can I now walk and run, but a couple of months ago, I was able to successfully complete a 50K ultra marathon trail run. So I know that yin yoga is some of the most powerful medicine in the body. But in this podcast, I want to really hone in a little bit away from the effects that yin yoga has on the fascia and the connective tissues of the body. And I really want to unpack in a deep way the specific effects of this great modality of yin yoga and how it relates to our nervous system. So the nervous system is really evolution's way of creating a method for the brain, the mind, to communicate to the vast 50 trillion cells throughout our body. That there is this whole community of information that has to be passed to all these cells that are really the building blocks of our life. Our cells make up our tissues, tissues make up our organs, organs make up our bodily systems, and then of course our bodily systems contribute to our total package of being a human being. So the nervous system is really responsible for taking all of the external information that's coming in through our senses and then broadcasting this information, this data, to all of those cells in the body. And each one of these cells has what's called an integral membrane protein, which is kind of like a cellular antenna. So this antenna that's attached to the cell is what's receiving the information that your brain and your mind is broadcasting throughout the field of who you are. So the nervous system's responsibility is to really cultivate harmony between all these cells, these tissues, these organs, these systems, and it's really key for creating efficiency and productivity and maintaining our survival. So we have, of course, what's called the autonomic nervous system, sometimes known as the subconscious nervous system, that this is a part of our nervous system that runs automatically without us having to think about things. This autonomic nervous system, it maintains balance. It maintains homeostasis. Without that autonomic nervous system, we would be in a complete state of chaos and disorder. So this is in charge of running functions such as heart activity, blood pressure, breathing, respiration, intestinal activity, temperature regulation, and much more, without you having to consciously make all these things happen. If you had to consciously make all these things happen, you wouldn't have any resources to create, to do other things in your life. You would just be overwhelmed and too busy having to govern these million different processes within the body. So there's two branches of the autonomic nervous system. Number one, we have the sympathetic branch, and number two, we have the parasympathetic branch. Let's first dive into number one, the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is correlated with energy production and really your body's ability to deal with the impact of stress. This is often connected to our fight-flight mechanism. So again, this has to do with our ability to survive and really enacting what we call the HPA axis. And the HP axis stands for hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Say that 3 times really, really fast. So we're diving into the science, you guys, and if you need to go back and rewatch and take notes, get your notebook out, feel free to. Also, we transcribe almost all these podcasts, so you can go to the beultimatepodcast.com and you can see all this written out and take notes as well. So if you're listening to this in your car or while you're cleaning the house or you're working out or whatever it is, and you don't get all these terms, just know that you can go back and revisit. So some of the stress hormones that are unleashed from our adrenal glands are hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline. And I remember about 15 years ago when I was studying to become an Ayurvedic practitioner, one of the big things that we talked about was the impact of negative stress on the body and how that aggravates what we call the Vata dosha. That's the dosha connected to the elements of air and ether. And we talked a lot about cortisol, and we would read books just on this topic of the amount of damage that excessive cortisol can do to our body. Because when you take these stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, this creates a type of chemistry that's almost like battery acid. And you can imagine that when you have all this stress and this negative chemistry, this battery acid is eroding away at your systems, your organs, your tissues, and your cells. This, of course, is creating the downward cascade or domino effect of what inevitably is going to lead to severe illness and disease. Unfortunately, in modern day times, we are dealing with a large amount of stress. People are overstimulated. You have the news, you have your bills, you have responsibilities, you have all the problems that we're dealing with in the world, racism, environmental decay as well. All these things that are afflicting our society is a type of stress. Right now in the news, we're hearing all about the coronavirus. So everybody's freaking out about this virus and how are we going to tackle this problem? And are we going to get sick? Can we travel? All these kind of things that are popping up on a day-to-day basis is stress. So our body is constantly under attack. Whereas hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, we weren't bombarded with the amount of news that we are. That we had to worry about surviving predators and other tribes, but that would typically come in a wave, in a short spurt, and then it would go away. But now, endlessly, we're in traffic, we're going to work, and we're perpetuating this stress 24/7 within our lives. And this leads to what we call chronic sympathetic state. So that sympathetic branch of the nervous system is always on. That HPA axis is constantly secreting those stress hormones. That negative chemistry is affecting the tissues and the cells of your body. So other effects of being in a sympathetic state include increased food cravings. We're always hungry. We're always wanting to eat. A lot of times we're craving sugar. We want sweets. We want desserts. We want soda. We want sugary beverages. And then this, of course, leads to fat gain. A lot of times when we have a lot of cortisol in the body, we start to put fat on, especially around the belly and the midsection, and that begins to accumulate. Research also shows that the brain shrinks when you're under stress. You think about it, when you're under attack, what does your body want to do? It wants to contract. It wants to shrink. It wants to go in to protect itself. It's not like you want to expand and open yourself up to the world. You're under attack. This leads to anxiety, suppresses your immune system, your ability to fight off disease. Your immune system can only take so much attack and so much stress before it just gives in. And then if your immune system is suppressed, then you become depressed. You're not feeling good. You're not able to feel charged up with energy, so naturally you're going to not feel super happy and super joyful. You're going to feel down, and you're going to have these tumultuous mood swings. You're also going to experience decreased muscle mass. You're going to have fat gain, and you're going to decrease good quality muscle. So your bone density will also go down as well. So you can see all the negative effects that stress can have on the body when we're in that chronic sympathetic state. It is not a pretty picture. It's not the paradigm of being in a state of health and being ultimate, which is what this podcast is about. In the Journal of the American Medical Association in 2007, they did a study and they said exposures to chronic stress are considered the most toxic because they are most likely to result in long-term or permanent changes in the emotional, physiological, behavioral responses that influence susceptibility to and the cause of disease. So negative stress is a major risk factor, as we're hearing from the Journal of American Medical Association and many, many other sources, to our biggest killers today: heart disease, cancer, GI disorders, arthritis, Alzheimer's, and many, many more. Now, I want to just interject in here that not all stress is bad. We have good stress and we have bad stress. We need some amount of stress and adversity and challenge to grow, to stimulate growth, to stimulate good quality production on both a subtle energetic level and also on a gross level as well. So bad or negative stress really happens when, one, your body perceives it as a threat. And number two, when it is relentless, nonstop, and overwhelming. Again, we're talking about cultivating balance here. So now that we've explored the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, now let's unpack and take a dive into the parasympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system, sometimes abbreviated as PNS, really is responsible for energy recovery, regeneration, repair, relaxation, rejuvenation. You almost hear these words and it just makes you want to let out a sigh, right? Like you feel like you want to exhale. It's just like, oh, we're yearning to just let go, to relax, and to renew, because we are so tightly wound up within our body, within our minds, and within our nervous system. You can look at the sympathetic branch of the nervous system as the accelerator of a car. The parasympathetic branch would be the brake of the car. Sympathetic speeds things up, gets things going. It's all about energetic motion and movement. We need that, especially in the morning time. Parasympathetic, we ease off the gas, we put on the brake, we slow down, and we need that at nighttime. And of course, for a lot of people, these two are flipped. We're exhausted in the morning, and then we're revved up at night. That's usually a sign that your nervous system is also out of balance. So the stronger your parasympathetic nervous system is, the healthier you're going to be. Because you're going to have balance. You're going to have balance between acceleration and taking a break. Now this from Dr. Michael Gallitzer and Larry Trivieri, who are two cutting-edge doctors that are really speaking about the importance of healthy parasympathetic activity. They write, the parasympathetic nervous system is devoted to nourishing, healing, and rebuilding the body. When actively dominant, it stimulates and enhances immune function, circulation, digestion, and overall gastrointestinal function. It improves functioning of the liver, stomach, pancreas, and intestines. It also lowers heart rate and blood pressure levels while increasing production of endorphins, your body's feel-good hormones. Only when your body is in a state of parasympathetic dominance are you able to achieve deep levels of rest and recuperation. Achieving and maintaining a healthy parasympathetic state is essential for healing on both the physical and mental emotional levels of your being. Parasympathetic dominance enables you to be more relaxed, content, and fully present in the moment. You're able to meet and respond to daily life challenges both calmly and more energetically. So that sounds like the paradigm of health and wellness. Now you have resiliency. You have almost like a shock absorption system within your body that can absorb stress. World-class athletes like LeBron James, they understand this. They spend 7 figures on getting into that parasympathetic branch of the nervous system because they need time to recover from being on and being at the top of their game. Good friend of mine, all-star baseball player, now plays for the LA Dodgers, A.J. Pollock, he enacts this. Usher, the famous musician and dancer, he does this as well. These people, they use yin yoga as a way to get into that parasympathetic branch of the nervous system. It is the key to high performance. If you want to perform on a high level, if you want to be the best that you can be, you're going to have to carve time out of your day, out of your life, where you're allowing yourself the opportunity to rest, to recover, to press pause. Now, you may have heard something called the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve plays a very important role within the parasympathetic nervous system because it is the primary way that the parasympathetic nervous system sends nerve impulses and signals throughout the body. So this vagus nerve, it originates in the brain stem and it goes all the way down to the colon. So it's like this super highway carrying all this important information and messaging throughout the body, but along this highway are a whole array of other nerve fibers that are branching out into the tissues, through the connected tissues and into the organs, so that it can communicate to these organs to recover, to repair, to grow. So it really has a huge role within the important regulation of many of our internal organs and their functioning. This will affect your heart rate, your respiration, your GI functions, your vision, your hearing, your speech, and the control of the skeletal muscular system in the body. So very, very important, the vagus nerve and what it does. Other benefits of parasympathetic nervous system include it allows you to manage stress, sleep better, regulate inflammation. We know that high amounts of inflammation in the body is also a main cause of disease and illness. It also creates healthier cells, brain performance, slows down the aging process, never a bad thing. And then it just leads to this overall higher quality of life, which I don't know about you, but that's important, right? Like you want to feel good in your body. You want to be as healthy and energetic as possible so that you can excel in all the sectors of your life, your relationships and your career and your exercise and your self-study and et cetera, et cetera. So the world's number one greatest killer is heart disease. And heart disease used to affect men more than it did women, but this has really changed quite a bit lately. And we now know that 1 in 4 deaths of women is now caused by heart disease. This came from a study done by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in 2016. And that 1/3 of all Americans have high blood pressure, 1/3. And a lot of times these are treated by statin drugs. And statin drugs are controversial. You know, you have some doctors that believe this is the most effective way of treating it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you to stop your statins if you're taking them. But it's debatable on whether that is the most effective way of treating heart disease or not. There's a researcher, Dr. Thomas Cowan, who's really dedicated a lot of his life to studying heart disease. And he's found that the primary cause of heart disease and heart attack is actually because of a decreased functioning of the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, a lot of this information that I'm sharing with you guys in this podcast is in my book, A Journey into Yin Yoga. And this was one of the biggest revelations while I was writing this Yin Yoga book. Like, I was passionate about Yin and I just wanted to share it with as many people as possible. But when I started writing the book, I didn't know about all this. I didn't know about this huge new wave of doctors and research that was coming out that was saying, hey, one of the biggest causes of the biggest diseases of our time is because we're constantly in that sympathetic branch of the nervous system. And if we can switch over into that parasympathetic branch, a lot of this suffering could be alleviated. A lot of this illness and this disease could dramatically decrease. And the beautiful thing is that when you do something like yin yoga or meditation or restorative yoga or whatever it is that's effective for you to trigger that relaxation response, a lot of these modalities cost nothing or very little, especially when you compare it to the doctor bills and the pharmaceutical drug bills and just the amount of suffering that's connected to these diseases that don't have to be so rampant within our society. So learning about the research of Dr. Thomas Cowan and Michael Gallitzer and others really just blew me away. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because I want to get this information out to you. Now, I want to share something with you from my book here. And this is from Dr. Cowan, who wrote an article called "What's the Real Cause of Heart Attacks?" He describes it this way. This is the process. First comes a decrease in the tonic healing activity of the parasympathetic nervous system. In the vast majority of cases, the pathology for heart attack will not proceed unless this condition is met. Then comes an increase in the sympathetic nervous system activity, usually a physical or emotional stressor. This increase in sympathetic activity cannot be balanced because of chronic parasympathetic suppression. Dr. Cowan goes on to conclude his article by stating, if heart disease is fundamentally caused by a deficiency in the parasympathetic nervous system, then the solution is obviously to nurture and protect that system, which is the same as saying we should nurture and protect ourselves. Again, the great athletes know this. The great performers know this. But does the common person know this? Do they know how important self-care is? Taking time out of their day to practice yin yoga, to trigger that parasympathetic branch of the nervous system. Now, we've explored in depth the consequences of chronic stress, of sympathetic dominance and chronic inflammation. We know that the cause of diseases that kill millions of people a year across the globe are linked to this parasympathetic nervous system not being activated. So the question becomes, where does yin yoga fit into this picture? Well, it's relevant in so many different ways. And this is a very, very important message. The intention behind yin yoga is to slow down, to allow your body's natural, innate intelligence to achieve balance. In your yin yoga practice, you will diminish the sympathetic nervous system and you will engage the parasympathetic nervous system. You will find balance in homeostasis. Those stress hormones of cortisol and adrenaline, they will decrease. And then the feel-good hormones, the good chemistry, the serotonin, the dopamine, the endorphins, they will increase. Your inflammation will lower. Your limbic brain associated with the fight or flight will be downregulated because of the positive activation of the prefrontal cortex area of the brain. Now your entire brain is fully integrating. You now have coherence. You have harmony. And then the body's rest and repair mechanism is fully activated. The connective tissues of the body are properly hydrated. They're strong, they're resilient, they're durable. You're injury resilient. This is the key to health and longevity. And we have a problem because so much suffering, sickness, and death could simply be prevented by just simply living a life of greater balance. Yin yoga, along with a healthy diet, exercise, proper lifestyle, meditation, good quality sleep, will tremendously increase your quality of life. Therefore, yin yoga is not a luxury. It is an absolute necessity. Thomas Edison said, "The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, in the cause and prevention of disease." You see, the unwise, they deal with symptoms, but the wise, they look at the root cause of what is causing the symptom. If you want to change the fruits, you have to change the roots. You have to go deep into the system. You have to do a deep dive into looking what is causing this issue, whether it is a disease or whether it is a disease that's existing on the planet. We have to have wisdom to figure out what is the true cause and not just address the symptom. All right, you guys, that is it for this one. I know we did a little bit of a dive into some science, some vernacular. Again, I invite you to go back and listen to this podcast as many times as you want. I also invite you to go and look at the transcription for the podcast. And if you are a yin yoga teacher, use this information in your class. I feel like the more that we can get this information out to our students, to the world, then the more that we can really alleviate unnecessary suffering. So help me share this video with as many people as possible. If you're interested in taking up a yin yoga practice, I have a lot of free videos on YouTube. I have 30-minute, 45-minute, 60-minute, 90 minutes, so you can incorporate this yin yoga in your life. You got to put this into action. Knowledge isn't power by itself. Knowledge is only powerful when you take action. I also have an 8-week yin yoga course called Flexibility and Beyond. And I got a book. Got a book called A Journey into Yin Yoga, available on Amazon and really all places where books are sold. You can find all this information on my website, traviselliott.com. Elliott's one L, one T, like the poet T.S. Eliot. All right, let's finish now with the ultimate prayer. May we bring strength where there's weakness. May we bring courage where there is fear. May we bring compassion where there is suffering. And may we bring light where there is darkness. May we be ultimate. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure that you click subscribe and also click the link to get those 3 amazing classes: Power Yoga, Yin Yoga, and Meditation. See you next time.